All right, Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to do a little video testimonial for us. Um, for all the folks at home, this is Chris Majerle, President and CEO of Majerle Management, uh, premier association management company in Maryland, and now one of our earliest partners.
We are. I think we were in the first 8 that went live.
Yep. So 2016. So let's start there. What were you doing with your collection process before Sperlonga and credit reporting became available?
Well, we've always had a delinquency problem. We're on the north and east side of the DC area, very liberal politics and judges that let people not pay and don't penalize them. So it's always tough here. And we've always had a collection program where we're monitoring what our attorneys are doing and reporting to the board, often finding that they're doing absolutely nothing. But sometimes they do a good job, and we report that too. But keeping on top of the attorneys was about all we could do. We'd send out our late notices, and then we'd send them over to the lawyer and try to do more than hope for the best. So we were pretty effective before, even though our numbers, for some people around the country, they might say, you've got to be kidding when you're running 20 and 30, 40% delinquency. But it was actually coming down, except in that 2007 crunch.
Right. And were you guys doing anything? Were you providing any kind of, incentives for homeowners that paid on time?
Not really. If they didn't pay, we acted. I guess that's how I parent too. I tell them what they're doing wrong, but not so good at telling them what they did right. So Sperlonga gave us that ability where we were not doing it before. We didn't send a statement, thanks for making your payment, your balance is zero. We didn't do anything like that.
Very, very good. Now, so I mean, what were you, I know you've done, a number of different tests on your portfolio. We have a chunk of it reporting, and then you've run tests on, okay, these are the Majerle management collection policy best practices. This is what we do as a company. We also advise you to use credit reporting, right? And then I know you had those two groups, and then you had the folks that listen to all of your advice, right?
Okay.
and, and we still, there's still boards at the end of the day that got their own, free will, right?
Right.
And and don't want to follow all your best practices and advice. What did you see when you compared the two groups performance-wise?
The last big study I did of that was at the end of 2017. So I looked at what the numbers were for 2016 and then what were they 2017. And honestly, we're in the middle of doing that again now for 2019, but it's a big project. And it can be skewed because, one community in 2016 might have participated in our collection program where we were monitoring the attorneys and one might not. So, they all use different attorneys. So I just wanted to see, all other things aside, what was happening in the communities that were in Sperlonga and what was happening in the ones that were not. And as it turns out, about 25% of our communities were reporting. And those 25% in the first year under Sperlonga collected 30% more of their delinquencies than the other 75% combined.
That's awesome.
I thought so. Our thing is to try to get delinquencies down. What works, what doesn't matter. Do the delinquencies come down? So we also looked at what kind of collection costs did they have, and we found that the 25% that were participating spent 6% less on legal fees that year versus the prior year, whereas the other 75% of our communities paid 1.4% more. So that's about a 7% difference in legal fees between participating and not. Assessment delinquency and total delinquency, we wanted to see those numbers improve. And it was about twice as good when they were with Sperlonga as opposed to when they were not.
That's awesome. That's what we love to hear.
I thought you might.
And how did you guys find us?
I'm sure it was at a CEO retreat for CAI. We go to a lot of those, and we do talk to the vendors. We make you guys pay a lot to be there, so the least we could do is talk to you. So, and I do,
Appreciate that.
and we talked quite a bit about whether or not it was legal to do this. And as being an early adopter, we call ourselves that we're often on the bleeding edge, not just the cutting edge. So, do we want to be the first guinea pig out there to get sued for reporting debt that we shouldn't be reporting? So we looked into that pretty heavily. You got us some legal opinions. We got some legal opinions. So it took a little while to get it going, but you were still building your integrations with the software systems. So by the time you were ready to go, we were ready to pull the trigger and go too. And we have not had any repercussions. We have some people who are upset. We're in the Washington, D.C. area. So if you work for one of those companies that has 3 letters that we have to kill you if we tell you who we work for, you can't have dings on your credit. So I think that plays a big part in Sperlonga's effectiveness for us. If you're in an area where you have a lot of government workers, whether they're State Department, CIA, or other workers, that if they're checking the credit, they can't have bad credit and keep their job.
Right. We were just talking to another CEO in Texas, and that was one of his, the things that drove him the most crazy. He's got FBI agents, military officers, folks that can make the payments, they just don't. And it's like it drives them crazy. Now, have you seen your ACH? I don't know if that's ever part of your study. Have you seen your ACH levels rise? People that sign up for that piece to make it just like clockwork.
I have not studied that, so I can't answer that.
Yeah. Very good. I don't know if you can get a vibe from it or like,
not really.
What, no. Okay. And what's your, what's it been like working with Sperlonga? I know we've had a couple different management software changes. You guys are on the bleeding edge. So we started with one and moved to another and then moved back to a different one. How has that process been for you, and what?
With Sperlonga, I think being an early adopter, we had to go through some hoops to help you get the integrations built and more testing than others might have to do now. But now I pay your bill each month. Otherwise, I don't know it happened. And from that bill, I send out a bill where I mark it up and I make a little bit of money. I'm not getting rich off of it, but I'm making some money on it. We have a little bit of work to do, only in the sense that if someone does challenge the reporting, it goes through you. They sometimes try to bypass you and call us, and we just refer them back to you. I'm sorry, I can't talk to you about it. You need to file your complaint with Sperlonga, and they'll go through the proper channels to get it resolved. It's not
Perfect.
cumbersome at all, and there's a little bit of money in it in the markup for us to cover our time.
Awesome. That's
the goal. We don't even know what's happening.
That's great. What now? Do you have any big wins due to Sperlonga? I mean, do you feel like this is another way to differentiate yourself in the marketplace when you're bidding on clients and talking about the process that you can provide?
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's hard to measure because there are other factors, but I think if, like any product that you're selling or any service within your program, you have to have answers to their questions. And one of the big objections we get is, I don't want to report my neighbors to the credit bureau. So you have to have an answer for that. Why not? They're not paying you. Maybe if you report them to the credit bureau, you won't be reporting them to anybody. Maybe you'll even let them have their parking passes and their pool passes. And you have to emphasize that when they pay on time, it actually increases their credit score. So we're helping more people than we're hurting. And the ones that we're, quote, hurting, they're hurting everybody else.
Right.
I mentioned earlier that we're in a liberal political area, I went down and talked to a delegate. I serve on our CAI LAC, and I was telling him the plight of our associations and how people who do pay have to pay 25% more sometimes to carry those who don't. And of course, his answer was, well, they're not our concern. So I think for the board, it has to be our concern that they don't pay and the others are having to pay more. So we're willing to do whatever we can legally to get that to happen. And I think it has helped. There've been, I won't say we've closed a lot of deals because we have Sperlonga, but it has been an oh really moment when we talk to prospective communities. I guess they assume that others report, and when they find out, oh no, they don't, unless they're working with Sperlonga, they're not reporting. So I think that helps us.
Awesome. Awesome. And do you have any any sort of big collection stories that come to mind where we have some folks we've been chasing this person for this many years. We turned on credit reporting and they paid their balance within.
I don't have any specific examples like that. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. They're always just they're fun to hear about.
I have lots of collection stories, but I can't pin them to Sperlonga.
I'm sorry?
I'm saving them for my book. What we're all going to write when we give it up.
All right. Well, and so, talking to the folks at home, how likely are you to recommend using Sperlonga?
I always recommend it. And in fact, we're just finishing up budget season. This is being recorded just before Christmas, so everybody's getting their payment coupons in the mail now. And when we do our budgets, we put the Sperlonga cost in there. Let them take it out. Let them be, reactive to it. We make the assumption that they would do it if they could. And a couple have signed on, a couple more have signed on because of that. Yeah, we were considering it. And that's not all it takes to get signed on. They've got some paperwork, but at least if they leave it in the budget, we'll generate the paperwork. And then it just gets, the switch gets flicked and they get reported. There's no more work to it in setting it up once we're already on board.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we like to hear. I mean, the idea is to run just automated in the background and, we'll handle any inquiries and try to, save some of that workload. Do you feel like it saves, for those associations using it, on the managers, do they, do you feel like their time is freed up to manage the association rather than chasing down, bad debt and, sending out notices, I mean, if we're reducing it by,
I think
30%.
If anything, if we're reducing our delinquencies, then we're making it easier for the manager to get projects accomplished. Nothing's worse than having a budget of 100,000 or $1 million or whatever, and you say you're going to do certain things, and then because of delinquencies, you can't do half of those things. Then the next time you try to get an increase, well, why should we do that? You didn't do what you said you would do last time. So anything you can do to cut delinquencies, and again, I think with Sperlonga, we've seen about a 6%, 7% reduction in assessment delinquencies. So that's money in the pockets for our associations to actually work with. We do put a line item in our budget to account for the delinquencies, like a collection loss would be on accrual. Well, a lot of ours are on a cash basis, but you can't spend the cash that you're budgeting if it doesn't come in. So we're showing them what their delinquency costs are as a line item. And when you show them that and they see, well, we could add a little bit more and do the credit reporting and maybe reduce that delinquency. I think that's the way you need to get them to think, because you have to do something. If you don't try to collect, people will not pay. As you were saying earlier, the people are able to pay and they're not. And why is that? Well, because their bank for their car payment is reporting, and their credit card company is reporting, and their mortgage company is reporting. Why are we different? I think that it's been a sore spot with me, because management companies are always different. If the utility company charges a 75-cent late fee because they took 10 days to get us their bill, they yell at us for it, because we should have paid it sooner. So we're always the ones that are responsible. If I can put Sperlonga into effect and have a little bit more money coming in so they can actually accomplish something, and I can show them that last month or last year we were budgeting for a 10% delinquency and this year we're budgeting for a 6% delinquency, that's what they want to hear.
It's huge. Absolutely. And we are on the same page. I don't know why they want to treat the management company industry different all the time.
Well, same
Like
reason they
different
want to pay
rules.
us less, probably. They don't complain about how much the landscaper charges, just the management company. And the lawyer
Right.
charges a lot more money, and they don't complain about that. They complain about the management company. So,
Well, we're very happy to give you that extra tool in the toolbox, and really are appreciative for the years of partnership with you guys. And I personally have gotten to know you and your wife and your team, and I think you guys are just tops. So I really appreciate you taking the time to let everybody at home know your thoughts.
well, thanks for doing what you do for us. And good to know you
Thank
too.
you so much. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Got what you need?